been just a bit of time since we last got together and hung out. In that time, I've picked up the glory that is Ted Lasso, and it is now a core part of my life, Brandon.
Your hair is looking a bit Ted Lasso too.
No,
by the
I'm
way.
just missing. I'm missing the mustache and that Kansas
That's
accent, and
yeah.
then I'm good to go, man. What have you been up to?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, it's been months since the last Sports Amigos episode was recorded, at least, and then we released them months later. And yeah, it's been a minute. And yeah, just work. Very busy with work. Dad life. Julian's 4 years old now. Turned 4 within the last month. So that's been a lot of fun. And the fiance and I are talking wedding stuff now. So that's fun. We're trying to get a wedding planned sometime this decade. So yeah, that's pretty much what we've been up to.
Nice. I know we got somebody pretty big on tap. It means a lot to you. You become very close with this guy. Sort of set him up, and let's welcome him appropriately.
Yeah. So when I left Abilene, I jumped into the Rio Grande Valley relatively blind. The only thing I knew about the Rio Grande Valley is I was super close to Mexico, and I had only really got to speak with 2 different people. One, the person that hired me, Jenny Martinez. Shout out to Jenny, who's a legend. And our next guest. And he drove me around the city of McAllen, through the expressway, which goes through a good portion of the Mid Valley, is what they call it. Westlaco, Far, San Juan, which is where our guest is from. He got out of sports not that long ago, which we're going to talk about a lot. And he left in his prime. I'm just going to say it right now. He was the king of the Rio Grande Valley sports scene. I learned so much from him, just like I learned so much from you. It's like I get to bring 2 of my brothers that have never met each other together for this show. And without further ado, let's welcome Joel Villanueva onto Sports Amigos. What's up, buddy?
Hello. Thank you, everybody. What an intro. Jeez.
We try and go big. We try and go big for the intros, especially.
Yeah, that was nice. Yeah, I'm excited to be here. I've got this fantastic t-shirt, Sports Amigos. So, I'm pumped up.
He's been a certified sports amigo since the minute this show started, because I made those shirts when we first started recording, and Joel was in that first batch of people that had a shirt mailed to him. Now in Reno, you're in Reno, Nevada. That's what I did mail it to you in Reno, right? You were out of the valley by then.
Yeah. You just asked me, hey, what size shirt are you? Didn't know what was going to arrive. And,
yeah, that's right.
And then I showed you. I was like, what is this? I was like, why does it say Sports Amigos?
I didn't even tell him anything. I didn't even tell him about the podcast.
I was like, wow, I guess we're amigos because we worked together before. I guess.
Like, this is cool, I guess, but why?
Yeah. Anyway, we're here now, and you're right in a way. I felt like I heard so much about Mike when you got to the Valley, Brandon, and I had never met Mike before. And as we kept on going through our time at Channel 5, you'd mentioned Mike, every so often. You mentioned you talked to him, and I never got to meet him. So now here we are, the 3 of us. It's kind of weird that we're here now, but yeah.
I always thought the first time you guys would speak together would be my wedding, which I really hope happens. I hope both of you can make it, because you're both totally invited. But it's great to at least virtually introduce you 2 together. And I feel like I left out an important detail for those that don't know Joel. He worked at KRGV for over a decade, the ABC affiliate in the Rio Grande Valley of Texas. That's where we worked together for upwards of 4 years. And you've been out of sports for a little while now, but we're going to get to that in a second. Let's begin at the beginning, as they say. PSJA High School, San Juan, Texas, is where you were born and raised. And let's just get to where sports became something in your life that you eventually wanted to get in front of the camera and talked about. Because sports has definitely been in your life pretty much from the get-go, but you found your way in front of the camera, and I think is a pretty unique way.
Yeah, I mean, I had done all sorts of things, growing up, obviously playing sports, having been a part of, different teams and things like that. But like many kids who graduate from high school, when I left the Valley and went away to college, I didn't know exactly what I wanted to go into. I had really no clear-cut, concrete thing I wanted to focus on. So in that sense, I was a bit lost when I got to North Texas up in Denton and didn't really have anything that was speaking to me. When I was growing up, I thought, oh, I'll be a doctor one day, or, I'll be an engineer, or like, these other kinds of careers that I really didn't want to do that. It was just something people said, right, when they were growing up. But when I got to college, I had to pick a degree. I had to figure out, okay, like you have to, tell them what you want to study. And North Texas, I went there because they had a great radio, TV, and film program. And while I didn't know exactly what I wanted to go into, I had been involved in a lot of theater when I was in high school. So I had done some acting, I had done, musicals, all that sort of stuff.
You had performed quite a bit in high school.
Yeah.
Marching band also.
Marching band. I had bands outside of school, rock bands. I played drums, guitar, all that sort of stuff. But I didn't feel confident enough to go into acting. I thought it was going to be, too quote unquote risky. So I thought, let me get a degree in radio, TV, film. That's kind of like the broad general area of what interests me. And hopefully along the way, I'll find out what I like. So just a fantastic program. I got to do a little bit of everything. We got to shoot videos, like little films. We got to splice audio. We got to edit video. We got to do radio. I was on KNTU, their jazz radio station, doing that. And eventually I got to do some TV at their college TV station. And we had to audition to be a part of the program. I had never done any of that. You go in there, they say, okay, read these scripts in front of this camera, and you don't know what you're doing. I mean, it's like, oh, okay, I'll just read this on the screen. Yeah, okay. And
Zero
I read
training.
it.
Just go for it.
Go for it. Just read it. And they were like, you'd probably be a good sports guy. And I thought, no, you have a sports voice. I said, well, I like sports. I do like doing it. I said, yeah, I'll try it out. So I was part of a class that we put on a sports cast once a week as part of a newscast. So there was they were all students. It was a student-based newscast. And every week a certain person did weather. Every week a certain person did the news. Every week a certain person did field reporting, and every week I did sports. And I just kind of got some reps like that. I started learning about cameras, going to football games, basketball games, shooting them. And eventually I got some internships in the Dallas area at some great stations up there. I started at KDAF, that was the CW affiliate. A gentleman by the name of Bob Erzik brought me in. He was their sports director at the time, and just gave me a shot. Didn't know anything about me.
Who actually worked with Brian? He worked with Brian Keating also, Mike, in Oklahoma City. He was a sports director.
That's right.
When Brian went to Oklahoma City. Yeah.
Oh, yep.
So Sports Amigos, family trees branching over there.
There's lots of connections. Yeah. It's one thing I've realized, after being in the business for so many years, that all these people kind of know of each other or have heard of a certain name but yeah, I got my internship at the CW first in their sports department. Learned from some great guys there, Dave Crome, Donovan Campbell, Noah Bullard, a great photojournalist. And then that internship got me some like street cred. So I tried to get an internship at WFAA up in Dallas, and that worked out for me. I got in there, another awesome sports department, and all these internships gave me the confidence to think that, this could be something I could do for a living. This could be something I could be good at. I would shadow their reporters. I would shadow their photographers, go out and shoot games. And I started thinking, yeah, this is fun. I like doing this. I love sports, want to be a part of it. And That led to me saying I'm going to go all in for this. So I moved back home after graduation, started working at Channel 5 as an editor. And as you know, Mike, when you start, you're just sending tapes everywhere, right? You're sending, well, at that time I was sending like DVDs and stuff.
The archaic VHS tape.
Yeah, VHS tapes,
Yeah.
DVDs, just trying to get any market to give you a call back.
So how far was your reach when you started sending out those tapes? Because everybody has those. I sent mine to Alaska. I was living in California and I sent mine out to Maine, like all over the country. What were some of those Timbuktu places you sent yours?
Oh, I mean, you start dreaming of you start having these fantasies of these awesome places you want to work. So like I'd send some stuff to Hawaii, or, to New York, Los Angeles. I mean, these are like places that, you can't start out in. But on the flip side, places I'd never heard of,
Shooters got to shoot though, man.
You just, something's got to stick.
Exactly.
So, I mean, I remember going to like Kinko's and, making copies of my resume, my paper resume, going to the post office, mailing all those physical copies out, and just, hoping somebody would call. I got some interviews in some places, and, I don't know what the right move was at the time, but I chose to turn some of those offers down. In hindsight, maybe I should have accepted some of those offers, but I decided to keep at it, and I felt like I could try to start in a larger market, or at least larger than I thought. Like instead of market 200 or something, maybe start in 150, or I don't know. I was trying to shoot also for something closer to home, something in Texas, maybe in that general region. And as it would happen, as I was doing some work at Channel 5, I was a part-time editor there, it's just a job, just doing something. And their weekend sports guy, Mark Dofer, got a job and took off all of a sudden. It was kind of unexpected. And they needed someone to just fill in on the weekends. This wasn't even a guaranteed job. This was just, we need a body to stand there on the weekends.
Like auditioning live on TV, essentially.
Yeah.
Basically.
They let you do.
Yeah, we've got 3 minutes, at 6, 3 minutes at 10. Somebody has to fill this time. We trust you enough to go out there and do it, but we don't trust you enough yet to say you got the job. So it was very nerve-wracking because I didn't know what was going to happen.
Wasn't your hair really long when they first let you do that?
Yeah. So
he's real clean. He's clean cut right now, but I remember seeing some pictures. I mean, it was like
it was like Shaggy from Scooby-Doo.
Shaggy from Scooby-Doo, like Jim Morrison. Like it was long.
Wow.
It was pretty long.
Yeah. Shaggy hair. And I mean, I was behind the scenes. I was just, I was a part-time editor, didn't know what was going to happen. And I got into it. And you mentioned her, Brandon, Jenny Martinez, the news director at the time, along with the dean of Valley Sports, Dave Brown, legend down there. They gave me a shot eventually. They said, you know what, you're good enough that we'll give you a contract and we'll name you the weekend sports anchor.
Your pulse is strong enough to fill the seat.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to pick this up now what an opportunity to work with and work under someone like Dave Brown, who, over 40 years in the Valley is what how many years was it that he did sports in the Valley?
Yeah. It was something like 44, over 4 decades.
And like you said, dean of Valley Sports, someone who really means a lot to both of us. And look, I mean, I was in the Valley for 4 years, and I got to see him at least once a week to do his weekly segment that he was doing after he moved away from full-time to part-time. And I'm not sure if I've ever asked you this. You first start, you get the job. He gives you a shot. What are some of the first things, biggest learning moments you had with Dave? Because we all have those, especially when you're first starting at a station. Yeah. Where you have these moments that are so uncomfortable because you messed up so bad. And there's times where you let down your sports director because you just did something that was out of your reach. You weren't ready for this situation. What are some situations you can remember with Dave where, you know, he really had to like teach you, and you had to just either grow or, you know, or give up. Like everyone has those moments. And I know you had some with Dave.
Yeah, I mean, like I mentioned, when I was doing these like fill-in duties, it was really nerve-wracking because I'll also mention, which is key in all this, I grew up watching Dave Brown. So this was a guy that I knew from when I was a kid. And now all of a sudden, as it happened, you know, I was in the same small, you know, sports office, which is just big enough for about two people. And
About
I'm
twice
sitting
as big as the K Texas sports office, by the way, Mike,
Oh
just
my
so you can
gosh.
envision it.
You mean our
was
closet?
Yeah.
So it's it's basically a walk-in closet. It was a walk-in closet.
Yeah, it was a closet with no door, so people would just come and go as they pleased, which always bothered us. But no, I mean, so I was really nervous when I started because here I was watching this legend as a kid, and now I was working with him, and I thought, man, I got this great opportunity. Just don't blow it. I remember going home and telling my parents, you know, I got the job. I can't believe it. They hired me, and they were excited. So I felt pressure to be like great from the very get-go. But of course, it's your first job. I mean, you're learning everything like as you go. So one of the biggest lessons Dave taught me about was um, checking, double checking, triple checking scores. And that's so important in the sportscasting business. I remember early on messing up scores or, you know, flipping scores on the scoreboard where the wrong team won, and then saying it on the air, and then having to come in Monday after the weekend where I'd filled in and just, you know, having to face the music, as they say. And Dave was very thorough with his teaching. You went over and over.
Let me ask you this: was with that first year, for sure,
Yeah.
the first year, how much was it like tough love from him? How much was it like he was, you know, taking it easy on you? I feel like it was more tough love from him because he's a stern dude. He does not like making mistakes.
He was, and the thing with Dave is like once you prove yourself to him, once you show him that you really care, that you're not just mailing it in, that, you know, you may make mistakes, but you really do want to be good at what you do. Once you get past that, he loves you. You know, he'll be your biggest fan. He'll root for you. He'll back you up. But in that first year, he really wanted me to just get everything right. And it was all these details, you know, it was like, check all the spelling. That stuff would really tick him off. If a name was misspelled in the CG, you know, misspelled the coach's name, that would tick him off. You misspelled the name on the scoreboards of a city, that would tick him off. You know, you got scores wrong, that would really tick him off. If you interviewed subjects, and this is a Dave Brown thing, if you interviewed people and they had sunglasses on, that was a big, big no-no in his book, which some people don't even care about that. They don't even think about it. They see people on TV with sunglasses, and his ideology was people don't trust people with sunglasses on the air. You can't trust them.
It's all about eye contact.
And I remember one time we interviewed Deion Sanders, which is a big get in the Valley. I mean, why would Deion even be in the Valley? He was there, and guess what? He had sunglasses on. And I'm like, Dave, you can't tell prime time to take off his sunglasses. I'm not going to do it. I was, you know, just thankful enough the guy even gave me, you know, 30 seconds for a couple of questions. But
you can't even call him Dion anymore. You have to call him Coach, or he gets mad.
Coach. Yeah, Coach. Yeah.
That's a different debate for
true.
A different time. That's a completely different can. We could spend episodes on that stuff.
Yeah, but I guess the bottom line was Dave really wanted you to get the hard, cold facts correct all the time. And that's not a lot to ask for if you think about it. I mean, that's part of the job, not just for sports, but, you know, if you're doing news, you're doing weather, you want to provide the most accurate information. And with sports, you know, it's exact. This team beat this team 14-10. You know, there's no gray area. There's no opinion there. It's just, this is what happened. They won, they lost. So a lot of those same things, when Brandon got there, I tried to really hammer home into him. It was like, hey, this is what I learned from Dave. These are things we have to get right, because I just felt like, and it really made sense, a lot of it is about credibility. And the more you watch people on TV, they keep on making mistakes, you just don't find them as credible. And I thought at the bare minimum, you should be able to tune in to a sportscast every night and get the correct information. Whether you agree that information should be on the air, whether maybe you have a different opinion on what should be aired or how the show should be stacked, at least everything should be correct. And I got that from Dave. That was one of the big things early on. Yeah.
Real quick, because this is going to segue into the next question I want to ask you. What year was that when you moved in and you started filling that seat part-time and that led to your on-air career? What year was that?
2007.
Okay, so you and I are in similar boats where we started in the age before Twitter and in the age before social media, and the need to get information onto the web super fast became essentially a requirement to do the job. But I mean, that became one of the hardest things for me to really, get comfortable with, was using social media, using it regularly, and getting that information out there, even in the middle of like press conferences and that. But I know basically around the time, Brandon, that you moved out to Abilene is when Twitter, because that was what, 2011, right? Yeah. So around that time is when Twitter really started to grow legs and become a proponent for sportscasts and what we were doing. So I'm
a source for people to get information. It was really growing there.
And so you started to see the birth and this culture of social media in broadcast. And I'm curious, what did the kids of that generation, I say kids loosely because three of us aren't kids, but what did those reporters, those new and fresh reporters straight out of college, sort of teach you about doing your job and incorporating that aspect of journalism into your job?
Well, let me start off by saying that you're so right. When you and I got into the business, it was just like, okay, get the sportscast on the air and you're done. Wipe your hands, go get some Wendy's, get some nuggets, take a break, come back, do the 10, you're done, go home. I mean, I make a joke, but there was a lot less to do. So I remember actually making the Channel 5 Sports Twitter account.
That's crazy.
I remember doing that too for K-Texas.
I didn't know you created it. Wow, that makes sense.
This doesn't exist.
Why would it be Dave? It would have to be you.
Yeah, this didn't exist.
For both of us, that was like a monumental moment when you create that account. And I don't know about you, every once in a blue moon, I check out K-Texas Sports Twitter and I just like reminisce a little bit.
Same.
That's it. Yeah, all those followers.
Yeah. And Joel, I'm sure you're the same with Channel 5 stuff, but do you still currently not have a Twitter? You didn't have a Twitter when we worked together.
I don't have a Twitter. And
Twitterless Joel.
Yeah.
Dude, yeah, he's never had a Twitter. And I remember we were working together.
I don't have Instagram.
You just have Facebook.
I just have Facebook.
It's just Facebook. So, because I remember when your time was winding down at KRGV, which we'll get to later, but I remember asking you like, hey, you've been running the KRGV Sports Twitter since day one. Are you going to take it? Because that's what I've seen a lot of people do that. The guy that I replaced did that with the KOB Sports Twitter. That's like 5,000 followers that I could have had a platform to start off with right away. And he decided to just because he created it. So he decided to take it with him and change the name. What an interesting.
Yeah, I mean, and one reason I didn't ever create my own Twitter, well, aside from not wanting to do it, but I mean, my thought was, when I log on to the Channel 5 Sports Twitter, I'm getting what I need. I followed the people I wanted to follow with our account. I mean, I created the account. So any information you wanted to get off Twitter, I was already getting that with our work account. So I made the Channel 5 Twitter. I made the sports Twitter, the Facebook account I remember making, all this new stuff. And yeah, I mean, you can imagine for older broadcasters like Dave Brown, that was even more of a stretch. But you just have to adapt. And if I was doing sports nowadays, I think I would definitely get back on in there, and I would make my own Twitter account, make all these different accounts. But yeah, it definitely made the job harder because now the information was out there all the time, 24/7. And I felt like part of that, at least for me, I felt more of the weight of having to know all this information because it was so readily available on platforms like Twitter, like Facebook. It's like, oh, you didn't see that? Yeah, it was on Twitter. It went viral yesterday. And I felt myself feeling like it was getting harder and harder to stay on top of everything because before, you were focusing on maybe, this slice of the pie of knowing just this. Now that there's so much information out there with these platforms now, you got to know this much. All this is out there. You've got to kind of be familiar with and know in order to do your job. That being said, there were times when I thought it was great to have social media. There was great things where we did as a station, Brandon did things that we wanted to share, like great bits of content. And that kind of went back to what I always talked to Brandon about when he got to Channel 5 is that no matter if it's on TV, social media, wherever it may be, always try to bring something that you can't find somewhere else. And I think that's, something all broadcasters, maybe all, journalists, all, it's kind of I would say kind of a philosophy a lot of people follow without maybe even knowing it. But yeah, you just want to come up with something creative. And there were some cool times when we shared something on Twitter or Facebook, and Brandon knows, we'd be like, yeah, we got that on the air. Nobody else had that. We were there for it. We got this great shot or great picture. And that feels rewarding when a lot of people share what you provide. And that is, I guess, the beauty of social media, right? You get to share what you create. So while I'm not on it as much in my personal life, I do understand that it's part of the job.
Right.
And
it was a big part of your professional job.
And it definitely makes the job harder. Whether you like it or not, it just puts more on your plate because stations expect you to be an all-star on TV, be an all-star on social media, be an all-star at writing web articles in some cases. So there you go.
So something you two have in common, and I got to witness each of you do this. Both of you were sports directors during your time in this, sports broadcasting world. Mike, I got to see go from weekends to sports. Joel had just become sports director when I got brought on. He basically, I was basically the first person to work with you when you became sports director. So I'd love to hear from both of you on your experiences as sports directors, because there are responsibilities that come with being sports directors, whether you're following a Dave Brown. There was someone in between you two, but he was there for a short amount of time. You're holding the chair of the legendary Dave Brown, and Mike, you followed someone that in Brian Keating that really put his stamp on the big country in Abilene. So Joel, starting with you, becoming a sports director, what do you remember about the first few days, few weeks, the first year of transitioning from the weekend guy to the big job, the premier sports job at KRGV, who had such a long, great history in that position? And what that meant to you to go from back in the mid 2000s a video editor to you're the sports guy now. Like, this is your department.
Yeah, I mean, it really showed, as cliche as it sounds, that if you work at something long enough, good things can happen to you. And I always try to have a positive attitude. When I started at Channel 5, I always tried to be a team player, and that's all I asked of everybody else that I worked with, whether they were in the sports department or photographers, producers, other people out there. You just, you want to be a good teammate in many ways. So it meant a lot to me when I got that job at Channel 5. And to know that I was following, in someone like Dave Brown's footsteps was really meaningful to me. There was also a lot of pressure, too. It was another chapter of pressure, because now, when you're the weekend guy, you don't feel as much pressure, maybe, because you're like, well, yeah, I'm doing this on the weekends, but so and so, they're the one everyone's watching Monday through Friday. Well, now, there's no crutch. There's somebody else. It's no, you're the person we're going to watch now. And you have to come up with the planning, figuring out what you're going to produce every night, and assigning photographers to games, or coming up with assignments for things you'd like to cover. So, there was a lot of pressure. I remember feeling that when I first started, but, there's also lots of rewarding moments too. And, in the end, it was just awesome. It was awesome to be a part of that station. Outside of the sports department, there were anchors at that station that I also grew up watching. Mainstays of Channel 5. Tim Smith, he's like Mr. Weather in the Valley. Letty Garza, Rick Diaz,
who
Oscar
you grew up
Adame.
around the street. You lived right down the street from Rick Diaz, who was also at Channel 5 in some capacity for 30, 40 years.
Yeah, I did. I was his neighbor.
Right.
Little did I know when I grew up, as I was a kid, I didn't know I'd be working with him. But that was one of the cool things too, where I sat down when I finally got to, be the weekday guy. I would sit down next to, Rick Diaz, Letty Garza, Tim Smith. These were all anchors that I grew up watching. And now I was the young kid on the end of the desk that, was part of the team. And that was a great feeling. It was great to feel like you belonged. And it was great to feel that, the work you would put in, it paid off. But more importantly, to grow up in the Valley, and then, be on TV in the Valley amongst your friends and family and other people you had met over the years. It was just an awesome experience.
How about you, Mike? What do you remember about transitioning to sports director?
The so much of what you said is I see exactly what you were saying manifested in my own experiences, specifically with the planning, the pressure in sort of a different way, because I had been at K Texas for, gosh, what was it? Going on 4 years when Keating left, and I had been on weekends for a little over a year before he left. So, yeah, Keating was established, but we had been around Keating, so there was pressure to live up to the bar that he set, because you really felt like you look up to these guys and you want to do well by them. You want to put a product out there that if they come back and see it, or if they talk about you, they're proud talking about you and talking about what you did. Like I wanted to do that for the two guys that I followed up in my two stations. The thing that was really the heaviest part of what I did, and Brandon, you'll know sort of what I'm getting at with this, was the leading and being a leader in the newsroom, and also managing the people, because some people were easy to manage and you had issues with other people. And I mean, we've both seen that, the good and the bad of that. It's tough to manage people. It's a learning experience, and it's a process to figure out, how can I reach them? How do I need to communicate? What is the language that they hear? We talk about love languages and that, but that's also a true thing just with people and relationships in general. And it's difficult to find the pulse of these different people sometimes. And if you can't find it, it's difficult to connect with them and get them to mesh. But then you see, the flip side of that, when Brandon, you're the perfect example of this. You and I meshed so well from basically day one that we knew how each other needed to function, and it made it so much fun going into work. It made work not really be work a lot of the time.
Right. And this brings me to something that I've thought about a lot over the years. And you two have a lot of similarities with the way you guys went about your business, and when we like you and I, Mike, and you and I, Joel, when we became like personal friends outside of work, you two were very similar in the sense that like you both were like my big brothers. Like I'm the oldest of three boys, and I've always been the big brother, and you two have been like big brothers to me really since day one. But you did it in different ways because Mike, the first day we met, we grabbed a beer that very, very first night, and like just like it was like stepbrothers. Did we just become best friends? It was crazy. Now look, with Joel, he got to interview me, and we did actually get to have a dinner together and have a drink together. But that was before I was hired. When I was hired, Joel did not immediately like bring me into his social life. It was like we were coworkers, and like he met out with me like one time within the first few weeks just to make sure I wasn't like going to somewhere I was going to get myself killed. He was great that way. But Joel, what I'm getting at is like your approach as a sports director was very much like, look, I'm the boss. We got to have some boundaries at first. Like we need to just work together and I need to make sure you're doing a good job. But you kept some space. But eventually that space was erased and we became best friends. So what I'd love to go to like the beginning of our relationship. What you remember about establishing some boundaries, establishing like the style of sports director you were, because you did it in a great way, but it was just very different from Mike.
Yeah, like, and this is something I got probably for my internships to begin with. When I started my internships, I remember, one gentleman, talked to me about how, because I would ask him, how do you become unique in what you do? Because everyone can get on there and just say, well, this team beat that team, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, you really have to take a little bit from all these individuals that you like, so if you like something this person is doing, take that. If you like something that person's doing, take that, and, use all of this information to create your own kind of identity and personality and how you want to do things. So I did try to do that, in my first two internships. Thankfully, there was a lot of great people that I got to learn under and ask a lot of questions about. And Dave Brown, when I got to Channel 5, was another guy. And I think with Brandon, for me, I was really so concerned, having just been promoted myself, that I was trying to make sure that I was, covering my bases and completing everything I needed to do, doing everything I needed to do to show the station, hey, look, you made the right decision in hiring and promoting me to this job. I think I got so caught up in that I really wanted to make sure that as a department, we were putting out great work. And, maybe part of it too was Dave wasn't the most friendliest with me when I started, but eventually we became great friends. And we're still friends. I just talked to him the other day. He's going to be a grandfather. He's going to be a grandpa for the first time. So I'm happy for him and his family. But there is no doubt about it. I did keep my distance at first. It was just kind of maybe a feeling out process. And it's funny because here's kind of an interesting story. I don't know if Mike knows or not, or maybe, but at some point, I know for a fact that I had reached out to Mike because at some point in our past, Mike and I had traded videos when he was working at K-Texas. So when I was at Channel 5, I had sent him some video. It might have been indoor football or minor league baseball or something.
Might have been high school. Might have been Harlingen, Abilene. I remember when they played each other.
Yeah, they played up in San Antonio, and I remember that we sent some video. That might have been it, Mike. I don't remember exactly, but I remember we had exchanged emails. And this was, I feel like when sports departments were beating news departments, because sports departments were the first to share videos, it felt like. They were the first to say, hey, shoot me a link or send me the video. And then news directors would be like, how'd you get that video? It's like, oh, I got a hookup. So what was funny was that I had exchanged emails with Mike. I had also done the same with Brandon. And in my email box, I kept the email from Brandon that I had exchanged with him, our thread. And when he got to Channel 5, eventually I found it one day, just out of the blue. I was cleaning out my inbox. I go, dude, remember, I forgot about this.
Small world.
We actually exchanged emails over some, whatever, indoor football or whatever, or hockey or something. I don't remember what, but it was so crazy to think that here was a guy, I had talked to, and in your case too, Mike, and here we are today.
Yeah.
On this platform that didn't exist just a few years ago. And it kind of shows just how many strides we've made, from a technology standpoint, right? I mean,
yeah,
it's crazy. But anyway, I kind of went off tangent there. But point being, it's also a very small world, the TV business. And I think all you guys will agree there's people all over the country now that we know or know of because of our time in TV news. And, it was really cool to be a part of all that.
You said that you were taught watch, observe, and take elements that you like and sort of shape yourself by taking pieces and learning through that kind of craft. Who were the guys that you tried to take something from and sort of emulate elements of what they did? And I want to know from both of you that answer.
Yeah, there certainly would be the ongoing stable of ESPN Sports Center anchors, right? So I can't name anyone specifically, but every time when you were a high school kid or something looking at the TV, you'd say, "Oh yeah, that person's great. They're great at what they do." So obviously that was always part of it. But when I was in college, one of my broadcasting teachers, his name was Bill Mercer. He was a play-by-play guy. He was the original. One of the first voices of the Dallas Cowboys, play-by-play voice, as well as the Texas Rangers. And Bill had a fantastic voice, great play-by-play guy. I had thought that might be something I want to go into. He was such a great teacher. So
you still totally could too. That's what's great about where you're at now, not working in sports, which I'm gonna get to next. Yeah, man, like you from as far as I know, from the beginning of your broadcasting career, especially at KRGV, you developed a really big, powerful presence. Like, Mike, the sports office was a good 10, 15 yards away from where sports guys would be in the studio. There's in a huge wall separating. I could hear Joel from that room, from that far away, every time he was live on TV because he was so loud and powerful. That's where I'm curious who influenced you on that. I feel like Howard Stern had an influence in some of your, especially your humor and you both have deep, powerful voices. But sports wise, I feel like there's other guys that had to have influenced the style of voice you.
Yeah, and these were guys, that I just happened to work. Like I said, I interned for. So who else do you learn from but the people you're seeing face to face every day, right? So I mentioned Bob Urzik at WFAA, Dave Crome, Donovan Campbell. Those were all people on the sports team there. I got to watch the great Dale Hansen at WFAA, who a lot of people know outside of Texas just because he's had these great commentaries over the years.
And he's about to retire too.
He's about to retire. He's about to walk away. But my sometimes opinionated style on the air sometimes came from watching some of his things. Joe Trahan was a great reporter at WFAA, and he was a fantastic storyteller. I used to love watching his packages, and he would bring me over to the edit station. This is on tape to tape. He'd be like, "Look, check this out." And he'd play Little Nat Pops. For those who don't know about TV, they don't know what that is, but if you know sports.
This is for Marcos.
Yeah,
Marcos
you know what Nat Pops are. He'd be like,
natural sound.
Yep.
Yeah, he's like, these Nat Pops. He's like, this is the difference between an okay package and a really good package.
Mm-hmm. You and Mike, I would dare say, are the kings of Nat Pops. You both definitely taught me how to properly use Nat Pops. So thank you both for that, because I'm still doing that today.
But anyway,
I'm touched.
Hey, you just natural sound, use it. George Reba, he was a longtime guy at Channel 8. And growing up and then moving back to the Valley, Dave Brown and his style. And, I think you're right, Mike. Like, you can't look at any one person and say, I want to be exactly like them. But there were certainly things I didn't like about some of the people I worked for, which I won't get into, but like, you know what I mean? The point is that you like certain things, and you try to take those things and carry them on. It is true. I'm a big Howard Stern fan. I do like listening to his stuff. Didn't really pertain to the sports world so much, but I'm just acknowledging that Baba Booey to y'all. I am a fan of Howard Stern. But, another thing, Mike, too, you talked about managing too. I interned under some people that I would look at how they would kind of go about the day-to-day business, and you see how they talk to people and how to plan things, and you kind of take some of that too and say, oh, well, that's how they did it. Let's try doing it that way too. So anyway, that is my response. That's what I'm getting at.
All right, Brandon, you're up. I want to hear who sort of crafted you.
Well, I was just thinking about this while Joel was saying that, because it's so true. Like, you have your ESPN guys, like Stuart Scott was a very big influence on me. Dan Patrick, Rich Eisen, Kenny Mayne, a lot of those guys from the 90s, early 2000s. But like, God's honest truth, the people who have influenced me the most are the people I've worked with. Brian Keating at K Texas, Mike, Joel, like watching, just like you said, Joel, watching how your superiors, if you want to call it, you guys are my superiors, whatever. You want to, I would watch you guys every day, whether it be the way you type scripts, whether it be the way you would track. And a track for Marcos is the voice you hear under a video. I swear to God, he's the only one I know is watching every time. So I'm going to make this a thing now moving forward in Sports Amigos. I watched every single thing you guys would do, the way you guys dressed, everything. And I can honestly say you two are the two people I have tried to emulate, not necessarily like be like on air, but emulate everything I do in the office, everything I do when I'm shooting a game or shooting a package. God's honest truth, man. You two have taught me the most. And I still, every day I'm at work, think about the things you guys have taught me and the way you guys did your jobs. Because you two are, well, I guess because you're not in sports anymore. You two were amazing at your jobs. And yeah, I had two of the best teachers I could possibly have. So yeah, man, honestly, you two taught me the most and still do teach me the most. Because I remember millions of conversations, we all had together the 6-7 years combined that I worked with you guys. Yeah, God's honest truth, man. Like, you two taught me the most, and I still do want to be like you two when I work, as a sports reporter, currently still in Albuquerque. Yeah, man, like, you two were the best, not just at on camera, because so much of this job, working at a local affiliate, so much of the job is off camera. Like 10% of it is on camera when you really think about it. And you guys taught me great habits. You guys taught me how to respect people the right way and carry myself the right way. So yeah, man, not blowing smoke. You two totally.
Well, we're not dead yet, so save the eulogy.
That was my practice.
No, I appreciate it, and in the interest of this big heart behind me, this is going to turn to a love fest. But no, I would say, and I know you would agree, Mike, that we were so fortunate to get, a coworker like Brandon, because as we know, and as you alluded to, there are people in this business that, for whatever reason, you just don't vibe with them. And Brandon was a great team player from day one. You came in, you were open to ideas, open to suggestions. You wanted to do a good job. And I feel like that's one of the biggest criteria, in this profession. It's like, does this person want to be good at what they do, or do they just want to be on TV? Do they just want the perks whatever that may be, of saying, well, I'm on TV for a living. And you really find out which people are serious about it and which people aren't. But Brandon, is 100% the real deal. He's told me several times, we weren't doing this, that this is the only thing he wants to do. And maybe this will lead into what we're doing now. But, Brandon and I have had conversations about our careers and things we want to accomplish, things we want to do. And for Brandon, and I don't mean to speak out of school here or, share any insight, but Brandon has always said, he's like, this is the only thing I want to do. This is it. I've attained what I want to do. And I think that is fantastic because, whatever you do for a living, God bless you, but you should be doing something you really want to do. And I'm just so proud of you, Brandon. And I know Mike will say the same thing. And it's been great to see you grow professionally, to do so much great work and see you out there in Albuquerque now. It's been really awesome to watch you grow. So props to you as well for, just being a great teammate and working hard, every day.
Thanks, brother.
While we're stroking each other's egos, I will put in my 2 cents because Brandon, that was a great job, just sitting there scratching the cat's back the entire time with that. But I do appreciate everything that you said, and I'll lay this one on you because this is very, very true to what I do today. Your attitude and the lens that you view your work and your personal life through, such a positive attitude, let things slide off the back attitude. It's really, really hard to maintain that in any job setting that you go to. Everybody has their good days and their bad days, but that's the lesson that I continue to click back to on a regular basis, is that attitude that you've constantly had. And if you're wondering what kind of attitude I'm talking about, it's a roll with the punches, team player, be there, help each other out, lift each other up. And if you know Brandon very well, you'll understand this one too. Because he's just jingling and humming all the time.
Yeah, and now Julian's doing it. So
Oh, man.
It's a beautiful thing, man. He just walks around humming tunes, man. Just like
Yeah.
little pops.
That's true. You're right, Mike. Yeah, he's got that hum to him. Yeah.
You know what though, Joel? You totally do too. We're both musicians, which we will also talk about in a little bit. Yeah, man, you're always singing and humming tunes. You know what? Drumming, probably more so than anything. Just like tapping on the old table.
Totally
we're both
guilty
very
of
musical
that.
people. Yeah, we're very musical people.
Totally
sure.
guilty of that. Yeah.
Okay. Moving on to this current stage of life, you and I have both made the transition away from broadcast, away from TV, and everybody has their reasons for it. Everybody reaches that point where they say it's, I need to go do something else for various reasons. In my case, the predominant reason is because my wife and I had our first kid. And I wanted her to have the chance to be a full-time mom if she wanted to. And it's pretty obvious that, wives can't do that if the husband isn't making enough money. You're not gonna be able to survive too easily. So that was one of the driving factors. There are a couple other things in it, but that was the biggest driving factor for why I left. If you could, whatever you're interested in saying, what drove you to get out of the industry and what Brandon says is sort of that prime of your career, and to do so, from what I understand, you didn't have anything in place, if that's correct.
Yeah, there was nothing concrete, nothing set in stone when I walked away from Channel 5. There were a few things that were possibilities, but nothing was set in stone. The fact is that I had a tremendous privilege and honor to work at Channel 5 and to work in the community that I grew up in. And I felt like over the years, and Brandon will attest to this, that I had the chance to not just experience so many great moments in Valley sports history, but I also had the chance to share so many individuals' great stories. So as a whole, I really felt like I'd accomplished a lot. I felt like I'd put in a lot of great work, and I felt really good about it. To be honest with you, I felt like, everything was going great. As you talked about, Mike, there are sometimes other factors outside of your job, right? Other things you take into consideration. And a few of them were family related. And also, I wanted to be with the person I love. That was another big factor in it. Maybe, as you mentioned, Mike, maybe the driving factor is your own family and your own loved ones. And I am proud to say that in just a few months, our family is going to be adding a new member. And I'm just thrilled about this. We have a baby boy on the way. And, we're just so happy about that. So
I can't wait either, man. It's going to be, I can't wait for you to be a dad, man. You're
so
gonna love it.
exciting.
It's going to be awesome, man.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know if there's one specific reason that drove me to say, I need a change. There were many factors. But that being said, I felt that in leaving the business, I'd accomplished a lot of wonderful things. I'd met a lot of great people. So I didn't really feel like I had anything left, any regrets about, well, I didn't get to do this or didn't get to do that, or maybe I just felt like I had a lot of fun. It was great. It was awesome. And I was excited for a new chapter, a new adventure. And this happens with people in all careers. We just happen to be in one that's visible because you see that person on television. But every day there are people that leave a bank and go work at a car dealership, or every day there's people that are police officers that decide to become whatever, businessmen. People change careers all the time. It's not unusual, and that was the case for me. That was the case for you, Mike. And down the road, I know people have asked me, not getting ahead of you there, but people have asked me, would you ever get back into it? And maybe I would if the circumstances were right, if the right opportunity was out there. Yeah. Maybe I would get back into the business. I would never close that door completely, but I have to admit, I really enjoy what I'm doing now. I'm working for a terrific casino resort here in Nevada. Really love what I do. And, I have nothing but fond memories of my time, in the business. At the same time, we're creating new memories. But it's maybe part of what helps is knowing people like Brandon and, having these great friends that are still in the business. It kind of still keeps me connected in a way. They still can reach out to me and talk to me about something that they know I can relate to about, Brandon and I we've talked shop, even though I'm not in the business anymore. We talk about things going on. It's just, it was time for me to move on. I felt like I had accomplished a lot of great things, and it was time for a new adventure, and I'm enjoying that new adventure now. Wherever you work, it's a people business, right? Hopefully you surround yourself with great people, you make great friends, and these people you carry with you for a lifetime, right? And thanks to social media, it's a lot easier too to stay connected in many ways with people and see what they're doing.
Well said, bud. Mike, this is the perfect opportunity to jump into what Joel has not seen yet. We call the lightning round.
The lightning round.
Oh,
The lightning round.
David Schwimmer.
Yep. Yeah, especially we named it after that episode of Friends, the apartment swapping episode.
Do you know what we're talking about? Have you seen an episode of Friends? Okay, cool.
Oh, that's one of my favorite episodes. So it's the lightning round. although with some quotes around it, because we'll fire off some questions at you, but you don't have to like knee jerk respond, because we'll toss curveballs, we'll have fun, we'll try and get you to enjoy it and maybe spill a little tea on people that we all know, kind of thing.
All right.
All right.
Let's go.
So here
are we still doing 10 questions?
Yeah,
That's what
10
it's been before.
questions. Yeah,
10 questions.
All right. So starting off, 10 questions, 10 answers. Question number 1. We know you love guitar. You have a history in band and the performing arts, and that you were in marching band. Shout out to the marching band lovers out there and the performers.
Mike was
out
as
there.
well, by the way,
Yeah.
Joel. I don't know if you knew that. Mike was too.
Yeah.
We salute the Bee Gees.
Yeah, buddy.
At the U of A.
Yeah. So I gotta ask, were there any special moments, favorite moments from your marching career, whether it be, because my one claim to marching fame, I never fell. Ever. I never fell, never in rehearsal, never in performance. That's my one thing. So what is your like moment of shining that you had?
When I became a senior in high school, I was named the section leader of the drum line.
Nice.
And it was really cool. And I was excited because I'd worked my way up. I started off on bass drum, went to then I'd worked up to we call them quints, but it's tenors. It's a bunch of different drums all together in front of you, and then you just hit them all like boom, 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 you know how it is.
Yeah, that's like the best one. I love that one. Yeah.
But aside from that, the cadences, we had some great football game appearances where it was like you're just rocking, you're jamming. And, when you're in high school, you think, all the people are watching me. They probably don't even care. They're watching the football game,
Yeah.
But you think, you're like, oh, this is awesome. Like, this is my time to shine. So I definitely enjoyed the cadences and like just, trying to pump up the crowd and jam it out. Yeah. With the drum line.
I like that. Keeping with the musical trend, since you do enjoy guitar, drums, and sort of all aspects of music, is there a band, group, singer that you like to cover or play the most?
Ooh,
I think
like
Brandon would probably know this answer. I don't even got to say it. I don't know.
What is it, Brandon? You answer first, and we'll see if you're right.
He's good.
Hold on.
Okay.
I was going to write it down and be like, what is on that?
Let's see if I can match.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, go ahead.
The truth. I grew up listening to like bands like the Eagles, the Beatles, because these were like bands my parents listened to. So, and even some country in there as well, like the 90s country, which I think is like the best country, the golden era of country music. So I grew up listening to that stuff. A guy that I'm in the closet about, which I won't be in the closet about anymore now, is John Mayer. I'm a big John Mayer fan.
You've never been in the closet about that. You
publicly
performed John
now.
Mayer. John
Publicly
Mayer.
now.
Didn't you play John Mayer's covers in the
Hold
Valley?
on, we've never had a Zoom like this, so this is the first time.
All right.
Yeah,
All
first
right.
time we're getting this
Zoom
out there.
official now. Okay.
Yeah.
And YouTube.
But yeah, a lot of great rock bands. Oasis. I loved
yeah,
Oasis.
you love Oasis. Yeah.
Growing up. Red Hot Chili Peppers. These are some great groups. Yeah, there you go.
I like that. A man of many tastes.
Well, my personal favorite that he didn't mention, he plays a mean Garth Brooks. I've got friends, because his low voice is killer for that. So he does that very well.
Yep.
Okay.
Taking it back to the roots down in the Rio Grande Valley, back home, give me a spot or two food wise. Everybody loves food. So give me a spot or two that if you're going back home, you got to stop there. I have to have this. One. I cannot leave. You will drag me kicking and screaming if I don't have or stop by XYZ before I go.
Okay. These are both going to be Mexican food places.
Amen.
Which maybe I shouldn't be doing, but whatever. Let's go for two of them. So, and these are, by the way, these are not 5-star gourmet places, but they are near and dear to my heart. One of them being Taco Fiesta. That is a place that my parents took me to when I was a kid. I was there for a long time. And as an adult, I kept on going there. Another one was El Pato. I don't know if Brandon remembers El Pato
Yeah.
back in the
Mhm.
valley, but that was another Mexican food place, the great tacos. So if you're going to the valley, you're going down there, you got to get the Mexican food, right? I
Mhm.
mean, that's what it's all about. Um, a distant third, if I may, would be Willie B's barbecue.
You
I
love Willie
love
B's. Oh my God, you love
Willie
Willie
B's
B's. Yeah.
barbecue.
We would
Uh,
drive way out of the way on dinner break to go to Willie B's
there
at
was one in
Alamo.
Alamo, there was one in
That's the one.
Edinburgh, and
Yeah.
they were both great. So
Nice.
there's my three.
He loves a good steak too.
I do.
You love
Okay.
yourself a good steak. Yeah.
Yeah. Headed up north back to your alma mater, North Texas.
Mean Green.
Mean Green. Give me a good I'll let you pick the story, but give me a good Joel college moment that
Ooh.
maybe people people that would watch that adore you think well of you might say, "Oh, I had no idea."
Hmm.
So this happened while I was at North Texas. It has actually no real tie to the school, but while I was in college and I was still trying the acting thing, um, I got to be an extra in a movie called Invincible, uh, and
Mark
that was
Wahlberg?
awesome. I got to be in that movie, and
The
that's
Mark
something that happened.
Wahlberg Invincible? The
Yeah,
football movie?
Mark Wahlberg, the Disney movie. I was going to college trying to get acting gigs or things like that, and I heard about this audition, went to it, and I'm just a little dot on the screen, but I know roughly where I am in that movie. It's a scene set inside Texas Stadium, which at that time was still there. Which
Wait,
had
you actually see yourself on the screen?
no, I mean, I
No.
know the
Okay.
general area where I'm at, but I
Right.
don't,
Okay.
I
Because I
don't
was
like
about to
hand
fire it up
Mark
after this
Wahlberg a
episode.
Gatorade or anything. But yeah, that was something that I think probably not a lot of people would know about, but that was when I was still trying to get into that business, and I think I worked like 2 or 3 days on the shoot, and we got to see Wahlberg, we got to see Greg Kinnear, these other actors that were like filming and everything, and we had wardrobes, so we got to dress up like we were in the 60s and 70s.
Nice.
Anyway, there you go.
That's a good. So we have,
Really good.
if you were still living the single life, you could say I have an acting credit and let me woo you with some John Mayer. That you got a couple good things going for you.
This is one heck of an IMDb page.
Extra on Invincible.
Yeah.
Since you have owned up to being a big Howard Stern fan, should the day ever come where you have the opportunity to meet him, what would you ask Howard Stern if you ever had that moment?
Oh, this is great. I love this.
Oh, this is a great question. And I truthfully have never thought about this before. This might seem boring to you, but maybe you might appreciate it too. I am fascinated by the logistics of things, the behind the scenes work that goes into things. Like in TV, we all know about things that happen behind the scenes, how we get there, how we do certain things. I love that. So I would love to, be in the studio, if nothing else, just observing kind of what they do, how they pot up guests, maybe on the audio board, the computer they have to play sound bites. Those things would really interest me. I know it's maybe kind of boring, but I would like to know more about just how it happens, because, and this is not just Howard Stern, this is, all great broadcasters. The great ones make it look effortless. They make it look so easy. You watch a great person doing play-by-play, you're like, wow, they're so good. But you don't know they have, also great producers, great directors, great camera people out there getting these amazing shots. So yeah, I would love to know more about just the behind the scenes aspect of it, and kind of how all the magic happens that gives you that final product on the air.
I love the inside baseball stuff. I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
That's some of my favorite stuff.
Yeah.
Moving on to what Brandon claims is reason for your love of golf. He claims that he is the reason you are now a budding and growing golf star and golf fan. So how's your golf game, and have you watched and figured out a bucket list of courses you want to play?
Ooh, yeah. Well, first off, I'm not saying yeah because of my golf game. I'm saying it's quite the opposite. As a matter of fact, it's yuck, ew. I don't know what else you could describe my game. Uh, Augusta, what a course, right?
Oh,
I mean, the
yeah.
Masters every year where you have one course. I know the other majors, they spread it around, but that would be a fantastic course to play, dream course to play. Quick story, Brandon, yes, the story is true. He is the sole individual that got me into golf, and he is the reason why to this day I now enjoy hacking away. Brandon was present, and he is the only person that was present for my first ever birdie, a legit birdie.
Yeah,
Not
legit
not
birdie.
not kicking the ball a few yards.
And it wasn't a gimme. It
It
was
was
not
not
a
a
gimme.
gimme. It was a
No.
bona fide
Yeah.
3-stroke birdie on a right. Yeah, it was a par
birdie on a par 4.
birdie on a par 4 at
Puerto
Rancho
del Sol?
No, it's Gata del
Oh.
Sol. You're right. Yeah,
Gata del
Gata del
Sol.
Sol in Far.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
I still have that video, Brandon,
I was just gonna say, I know I took a video of it.
on
You know
my
how much
cell
I like to
phone.
take videos on the golf
And Mike,
course.
get this, like cell phones have improved over the years. This video is so grainy.
Oh
It gives you
no! Damn
true
it.
insight into how bad camera phones used to be.
Yeah.
Like
Oh,
it's
what's
so
that?
grainy, but I line up and I line up the putt terribly. I don't, there's no approach, there's no planning. It's just like walk up and swing, and just bat it in. It wasn't a gimme. There was some length on it, but
I would say my most proud sports moment on the golf course, at the very least, is watching Joel break 100. Because when we
Ooh.
started playing together, it was rough because he had played before, but like he hadn't had his own clubs. He hadn't really like tried getting into it. Bought his own set, like dedicated time to getting better.
no
And
lessons. I mean, nothing.
and you like legit, because he always says honest Abe when we're on the course, like, I'm not gonna cheat this hole, I'm gonna take my OB stroke, I'm gonna whatever.
Take the
He would
L.
keep score every time, and like the scores were really high,
Atrocious.
like one,
A
120s,
130 is a
130s.
130. A 120
Yeah, 130s and 130. I always respect that about it. And yeah, he broke 100, I want to say, in Edinburgh. It was a course in Edinburgh, and he broke it. And yeah, it was an awesome moment because he really wanted to do it. Like that was a goal. Like
That's
it was
awesome.
like it was a goal. He's like, I just want to break 100, man. Like that would be cool if I could do that. I'm like, you're gonna fucking do it.
But
just got to keep going.
one of the things I love about golf
overnight.
is that you don't have to be great to play it. Like I guess like many other sports, and it's a sport that I quickly realized that I never thought before. You can play your whole life, and I thought to myself once I started playing, why didn't I do this before? I should have started playing when I was in high school or something. In junior high, I remember I took some golf class or something, and it lasted like a week. I never kept on doing it. My dad never golfed. No one around me in my family ever golfed. But I'm so glad I learned. Thank you, Brandon, for that. As long as we're continuing to stroke each other's egos and achievements. Thank you,
dude. I would actually credit golf being a huge reason why we started becoming closer friends.
That's true.
I would dare say that. Yeah,
that's fair.
So,
On some of our days off, or some of your days off when I had to go in later, we'd play. And
right. Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I want to hold the lightning round. We're still.
it's hey man, the lightning round always gets the job done regardless of what happens. Okay,
we are getting tighter on time, so we're on 7 now, right?
Yeah, we're on 7. Okay, since you are about to have a kid, and I'm told you are a pretty big Dallas Cowboys fan, if you could pick, if you had your choice of any jersey, what jersey would your child don for the very first time?
Like this.
Ooh, that is a great question.
Could be Cowboys, it could be something else, but yeah, I would guess it would be Cowboys.
Let's go with the All-American good guy, Jason Witten.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
The guy that did it for so long and did it the right way. And I know Bob Lilly, they call him Mr. Cowboy, but I think the modern day version was Jason Witten. And I actually have his jersey, to be honest with you. But yeah, I mean, you want your child to, emulate people that, do things the right way, right? So
Yep.
He's the biggest example that comes to mind right now. Yeah.
That's a good one. I appreciate that one. We know that you've spent so much of your life in Texas before you moved up to Nevada. I'm told that there was a stint when you moved away for a little while that you spent some time working at Disney World. And I'm curious, give us some good dirt. Maybe some behind the scenes tunnel stories. Things you saw that would make the typical Disney World goer, surprised or something.
Well,
Mickey Mouse dirty laundry.
This is going to shock you, but the characters aren't real. There's actually human beings inside these costumes that like to take off their heads, smoke, hang out, shoot the breeze.
Don't you dare tell Julian that, Joel. Don't you dare tell Julian that. For as
Yeah,
long as we can.
I found it so strange. So when I worked at one of the parks I worked at was Magic Kingdom. And long story short, the only way to get into Magic Kingdom as an employee was to take a bus. So every employee, whether you were an executive, whether you were a character, whether you worked in food and beverage, they all had to ride a shuttle into work and out from work. So at the end of the day, you'd be on the shuttle and you'd look around and there'd be like Tinkerbell in street clothes. There'd be like a guy who played Mickey, like with half of his stuff on,
smoking a cigarette.
Right. And we had tunnels that would go out to the, they called it on stage, right? It could be off stage and on stage. And I kid you not, we would see these characters. Many of them were very short because that's how tall these characters had to be, like Mickey and Minnie, because they had to be tall enough where kids could hug them and take pictures. You'd see these shorter individuals smoking cigarettes. And it was so odd to me that, as soon as you went on stage, it was like a whole new world, to borrow a line from Aladdin. But that
was good.
That being said, I enjoyed the experience. One quick brag: when you were an employee, you could go to the park whenever you wanted to. So there were days when I would wake up, and I kid you not, maybe I'm a dork for doing this, but I would say, I feel like riding Space Mountain. So I'd go to the park, go in line, ride Space Mountain, and go back home, go do laundry, go to the grocery store.
Yeah, man. Why not? You're there. Yeah, but might as well.
I was living there, working there, and it was an awesome experience. I still have some friends from that Disney World experience. But yeah, just seeing the behind the scenes stuff was funny. It was cool.
That's awesome. Moving on to a question about more dirt. This time, give us something about Brandon that maybe he wouldn't necessarily want out on the web.
You both got stuff on me, so
this is a tough one because I'm not sure where this gray area is and where the line is we can cross and not cross on this type of broadcast.
Oh my god. Okay.
But I'll water it down a little bit. Basically, I guess there were times when Brandon went out of town on an assignment, and there were times when Brandon maybe had a little too much fun, so to speak. maybe got carried away, got caught up in the moment. And in full transparency, there were a couple times when I happened to be present for this, and I myself got carried away. But I don't know if you guys went on the road together for any games or anything, but we went on the road a few times. Not as many times as I would have liked to be honest with you, Brandon. But because sometimes, I'd be in the studio, I'd have to toss to him on the road, and vice versa, But
Mike, would you say we state championship the last season for sure was one for us. Did we
Yep.
go anywhere else together?
We didn't really go anywhere else.
We were separate the rest of the time.
Yeah, we had that one moment, but we had so many other moments when we were hanging out in Abilene after work with, our group of friends coming together.
Yeah.
That's where all of our like really good memories came from.
Well, it's interesting because my final month, I guess you could say, at both K Texas and KRGV, I did get to go on the road with each of you, a state championship with Mike, and the final thing Joel and I got to do on the road, and it was the only thing we did on the road together, was covering a state championship for basketball in Texas, covering Santa Rosa. I'll just fast forward through the rest of the details because, I definitely had way too many frosty beverages with both of you. So let's just stop it right there.
Memories were made.
I'll take it a step further, Mike. Whiskey Coke. That is the Brandon Ortega special.
Okay, one really fun thing. We had Whiskey Cokes. This is in San Antonio, me and Joel. Our hotel had a piano on the bottom floor in the lobby, and they allowed people to play it like whenever you wanted for whatever reason, even though it was like 2:30 in the morning, Joel, when we hopped on it. It was late, and we had this small group of strangers hanging out with us, belting out John Lennon and Radiohead's Creep and CCR. We were just belting out songs. That's one of my favorite memories for sure on the road with Joel.
And
yes, with Whiskey Cokes in hand.
Yeah, you beat me to it because that was a great memory. That was awesome because we just kind of find ourselves back in the hotel. We like turn a corner and there's this like grand piano just sitting there, and it was like, oh, like we can actually play this, and like no one cared. And then these random
and
people,
loud too. Like we didn't have to be quiet. We could play loud.
I mean, Mike, Brand talking about how loud I am. We were like belting out in this lobby, not having a care in the world, and other random strangers come up, and it turns into like a sing-along, and it was awesome. And I think we took a picture. I've shared that picture on social media that night because that was one of the last times we hung out, working together. And that was a fun time.
That's good. I'll fill you in on our story after the show wraps up. But we finish with this question every episode. It's become a staple. What's your favorite movie that you are ashamed to admit?
This is great for Joel. This is so good because you love movies.
I do.
Love movies.
But ashamed to admit.
Guilty pleasure, basically, like a guilty pleasure.
Mine is like one of mine, because we all have a few, but one of mine, the one that I always own is, the Transformers movies.
Right. Okay.
And just so you like, we're all participating. I've admitted several times on Sports Amigos that Devil Wears Prada would be a guilty pleasure of mine. So very, very much a chick flick. That is a chick flick.
Yeah.
And it's not easy for dudes to admit that they love that movie because a lot of dudes do. And I am one of them. So there's mine.
I'm going to go the nerdy route. I'm going to say like Star Trek movies. I don't know if it's really cool to say like, oh yeah, like did you see that latest Star Trek movie, or to be a Trekkie, so to speak. But there's been lots of Star Trek movies. I can kind of base it on my girlfriend. I'll bring up some movies and I think to myself, yeah, she probably would be like, I would never watch that. And she probably would never watch anything.
She'd just call you a nerd.
Yeah, she'd be like, dude, you're a dork. On the flip side, real quick, some of my favorites: Forrest Gump. That's an awesome one. Shawshank Redemption.
Yes, top 5.
Back to the Future. And Saving Private Ryan.
Those are some good choices.
Those are Mount Rushmore movies. Yeah, those are really good. Yeah. I'm
still like, I will always, if I see it on, I will always turn on The Martian or Interstellar. Ooh. Those are two of my recent, and I'm just talking about like the recent ones, but I will always leave those on. And if I need something to watch, I'll look for those any day.
Yeah, those were both good. I liked Interstellar. That was really good.
Yeah, very good.
There you go.
I want to make sure we don't run out of our Zoom data, so I'll wrap it up right here. Man, I got to say that was one of the best lightning rounds we've ever had. That was a really good, very strong, first of all.
There you go.
Yeah, boys, look, I said it before, and I'm going to say it again. I was always looking forward to the day you two would meet. And I really did think it was going to be my wedding, but I'm glad if it's not my wedding, it would be Sports Amigos, because
We still have the wedding though.
yeah, that's going to happen. That's happening.
So he says.
And we'll always
Details,
have great
details are
memorabilia.
escalating. You will get save the dates very soon. Yeah, man, you two are my brothers from other mothers, no doubt about it. And you both mean a lot to me in many ways. And this is I'm not trying to make anyone else that we've had on Sports Amigos feel bad. This may be my favorite episode we'll ever do, because like you two mean that much to me, man. And like this conversation just was, man, it was just a beautiful conversation. I mean, we talked about a lot of cool things.
Yeah, we did.
About Joel's journey and how our journeys intersected together, and how we're all like connected in a way for our whole lives, for the rest of our lives. So yeah, Jay, I know you're working tomorrow morning, and you didn't necessarily have to do this later at night. We're recording this a little later at night, so thank you very much for making the time. And yeah, man, until the wedding, this will be the first great conversation of many I think all three of us will have next time we're together.
I love it.
Yeah, it was awesome. Thank you so much for having me on. Love what you guys are doing with all this. And yeah, it was a pleasure to meet you face to face, Mike. And yeah, I think this is awesome what you guys are doing, and I talked about this off the air before we came on. I hadn't watched any of these because I didn't want to know what the format was like. I just kind of wanted to come in blind and just go at it. But I love the fact that you guys can just have conversations with different people and just talk about whatever comes up. I love the questions. That was great. I really appreciate that you guys, put some thought in those lightning round questions. That was cool. I just had an awesome experience tonight. It was awesome. Thank you for having me on. And I think I talked about this earlier, the fact maybe that, we're kind of doing, all three of us are doing completely different things right now. But the fact that, TV at one time or another, had us all together in the same realm. I think we can all speak for each other and say that, we love and appreciate the friendships that we have created over the years. And that, more than anything, means more to me than any sort of highlight or great soundbite we got on tape or any great package we ran. It's the people. And I had the pleasure to work with some great people like Brandon. And, it's just awesome that, we can share these great memories and have a platform like this where we can talk about it.
It's a blast. We love doing it. I call it a glorified excuse to hang out with friends during a pandemic kind of thing, but it really is fun to ask each other questions, hear stories, and, what we hope learn something from each other too.
Yeah. Well, thanks again for having me on. I appreciate it so much. And I am looking forward to the Brandon Ortega wedding coming up here.
You know it.
Becca and Brandon.
Baby. It's coming, baby. We usually end if you have a drink by your side, or even if you don't have any sort of drink on your side, we could just do some nucks, but we end with a little toast. And look, Joel, before the show ever started, you were a certified sports amigo in my book, and now we're all certified sports amigos together. And I'm so happy that that we had this first conversation, all three of us, and to many more in the future. And I love you both, man.
All right.
Cheers.
Love you guys. Salud.